Welcome to my channel. Support our channel by subscribing. Your subscription helps us grow and create more intriguing content like this. Now let's dive into today's story. Title: I Found My Brother's Secret Messages, the shocking truth behind his affair with my wife. Jake Matthews had always been the kind of man who believed that hard work paid off. At 32, he had a steady job as a software engineer and a beautiful wife, Ava. Their life in the quiet suburban town of Fairview was the epitome of what many people would consider success. They were a power couple, Jake with his sharp analytical mind and Ava, a talented fashion designer with an eye for creativity. Together, they had been married for 6 years, a bond built on love, mutual respect, and an occasional night of laughter over dinner. But behind the calm exterior of their marriage, Jake had begun to notice small things that didn't quite add up, little cracks in the foundation that, at first, seemed insignificant. Ava had always been independent, but recently there was a cold distance between them. She was spending more time away from home, attending late-night design meetings or visiting clients, as she would call them. Her phone always seemed to be buzzing with messages, but whenever Jake asked to take a look, she quickly brushed it off. It wasn't that he was overly suspicious. Jake trusted Ava with all his heart. But there was a nagging feeling that wouldn't go away. Ethan Matthews, Jake's younger brother, had also moved back in with them recently after his relationship with his ex-girlfriend fell apart. At 28, Ethan was still trying to figure out what he wanted in life. He was charming, easygoing, and always had a smile on his face. He quickly became a fixture in their home, often joining Jake and Ava for dinner or movie nights. His presence brought an energy to the house that Jake couldn't help but appreciate, even if he sometimes felt that Ethan's carefree nature rubbed off on Ava in ways he didn't quite understand. Little did Jake know, the storm was brewing right under his nose. One evening, Jake was at home after a long day at work. Ava had texted him earlier that she was going to be late for dinner, so he decided to relax and catch up on some work. His laptop was open in front of him, but his mind was elsewhere. He had just gotten off the phone with a friend who had casually mentioned seeing Ava out with Ethan at a local cafe. They had seemed close during the encounter. It wasn't uncommon for Ethan and Ava to hang out, but something about the way his friend had described it made Jake uneasy. He couldn't shake the feeling that something more was going on. As Jake was lost in his thoughts, he noticed something strange. Ava's phone was lying on the coffee table, unlocked and displaying an incoming text message. The notification read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby." Jake's heart skipped a beat. He knew it wasn't his message. It was from someone named E. Curiosity gripped him. The message was innocuous enough, but the word baby stood out in a way that made his stomach churn. Without thinking too much about it, he picked up the phone and quickly read through the rest of the conversation. The text exchange was intimate, filled with playful banter and promises to meet up soon. As Jake scrolled further, he was hit with the sickening realization that the person on the other end of the conversation was none other than Ethan. The texts weren't just innocent. They were flirtatious, suggestive, and full of promises for secret rendezvous. There were no details about the affair itself, but Jake didn't need them. His heart pounded in his chest and his mind raced. How had he not noticed? How long had this been going on? Jake sat back in his chair, the phone trembling in his hands. He felt the weight of betrayal pressing down on him. He wanted to confront Ava, to demand an explanation, but something inside him told him to wait. Jake didn't sleep that night. He spent hours poring over the messages, trying to make sense of them, but no amount of rational thought could ease the turmoil in his chest. He needed answers, and he needed them now. The next morning, he waited until he was alone with Ethan in the kitchen. Ava had gone out for a meeting, leaving the two brothers alone. Ethan was making coffee, humming a tune as he went about his morning routine. Jake stood in the doorway, his fists clenched at his sides. "Jake, We need to talk. Ethan looked up, a smile quickly fading from his face as he saw the seriousness in Jake's expression. Ethan. What's up, man? Everything okay? Jake. I found your messages with Ava. Ethan's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing his face before he quickly masked it with a casual grin. Ethan. Wait. What? Jake, I don't know what you're talking about. Jake didn't wait for more lies. He pulled out his phone, showing Ethan the conversation. Ethan's face, showing Ethan the conversation. Ethan's face drained of color as he saw the proof right in front of him. Jake. You've been seeing her, haven't you? Ethan. Jake. Jake, cutting him off. Don't lie to me. I saw the texts. I saw everything. How long has this been going on? Ethan ran a hand through his hair, struggling to find words. Ethan. Jake. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just... Jake. Don't even say it. You've been sleeping with my wife behind my back. Ethan opened his mouth to protest, but the words never came. Instead, he dropped his head in shame, unable to look his brother in the eye. Jake didn't know what to do with himself. His mind was reeling. This wasn't just about a betrayal from his wife. It was his own brother, the man who had grown up with him, shared countless memories with him, and who he had trusted above all others. Ethan tried to apologize, tried to explain, but Jake couldn't hear it. There was nothing that could undo the damage. The truth was out, and there was no going back. Later that night, Jake sat across from Ava at dinner, his heart heavy with the weight of what he knew. She seemed distant, not noticing the storm brewing in Jake's eyes. Jake, coldly. Ava, I know everything. I know about you and Ethan. Ava looked up, her face paling. Ava, defensive. What are you talking about? Jake placed his phone on the table, showing her the same messages he had shown Ethan. Ava's face twisted in shock, her eyes welling up with tears as she saw the truth laid bare. Ava, choking on her words. Jake, I didn't mean for it to happen. I swear. It was a mistake. Jake. A mistake? You've been sleeping with my brother for months. Don't you dare try to call it a mistake. Jake's emotions were a storm of rage, sadness, and confusion. But one thing was clear. He couldn't just let this go. Ava had shattered the trust in their marriage, and Ethan had broken the bond between them as brothers. He needed to make them understand the weight of what they had done. But Jake wasn't the type to act impulsively. He was smart, calculated. He knew that revenge wasn't about immediate violence or confrontation. It was about making them feel the consequences of their actions. After days of brooding, Jake came up with a plan. He would expose Ethan for the man he truly was, and he would make sure that everyone knew the truth. Jake wasn't interested in keeping the family intact. He wanted justice. Jake posted on social media, crafting a message that was vague enough not to outright attack anyone, but clear enough to reveal Ethan's affair with Ava. He shared screenshots of their texts, without names or dates, but leaving enough information for people to figure it out. The response was immediate and brutal. The social media post spread like wildfire. People started connecting the dots, and soon, both Ethan and Ava were the subject of whispers and public ridicule. Ethan's friends, once loyal, started distancing themselves from him, while Ava's clients and colleagues expressed their disappointment. The world had found out about the affair, and the shame was palpable. Ethan, unable to face the public backlash, tried to salvage what little was left of his dignity, but it was too late. He was ostracized, his reputation tarnished. Ava, too, faced the fallout in her professional life. The public was harsh, but the pain that both of them felt was nothing compared to the deep wound Jake carried. Months passed, and Jake started to rebuild his life. It wasn't easy. The pain lingered, but he found solace in the fact that he had faced the truth head-on and that the world knew what had happened. Ava eventually left, unable to repair the relationship with Jake. Ethan, too, disappeared from his life, his once vibrant personality now a shadow of the man he had been. Jake's life was far from perfect, but he was finally free. He had learned that sometimes the hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself, it was finding the strength to move on. Jake sat on the balcony of his apartment. The city skyline stretched out before him. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow on the world below. Sometimes the truth is a heavy burden to carry, but in the end, it's always better to face it than to let it fester in silence. Jake's journey wasn't easy, but he found a way to move forward, learning from his pain and embracing the lessons life had taught him. Host, smiling softly. What do you think of Jake's decision? Would you have handled things differently? Let us know in the comments below, and remember to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this.